Removing the fairings on the Suzuki GSX600F Katana is necessary in order to complete all manner of jobs on the bike. This is the Dave Cave and this is removing the fairings. If you find this video useful, make sure to like it. Let me know your best and worst bikes for removing fairings in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new content. To remove the fairings, you're going to need some tools. The main tool will be a 5mm Allen wrench. I'm using a ratchet adapter which I've shown in a previous video which is linked in the description. You'll need a screwdriver for the panel screws on the dashboard and the screen mounting bolts. You'll also need a standard 5mm Allen wrench like the one in the bike toolkit to remove the mirrors. Depending on whether you've changed some of the smaller bolts, you'll also need a smaller Allen wrench. And lastly, because I have some damaged bolts, I'm using a chisel to undo them. Firstly, remove the lower fairing. There are 5 bolts on each side to undo. A video on how to do that is also linked in the description. Once you've undone the lower fairing, put it to one side. Both sides of the fairing are identical in terms of the placement of the bolts, so I'm only showing one side. It doesn't matter which order you undo the bolts and screws. The fairing will not come off until all the bolts are removed and you then release the mounting points. The first bolt I'm going to remove is the one that is most often missing on these bikes because it cannot be seen. However, if yours is missing, I recommend you replace it as it will reduce the vibration and clatter of your fairings. This bolt is removed using the 5mm Allen wrench. The next bolt is under the seat, so make sure you take the seat off before trying to undo it. Normally this bolt is undone using a 5mm Allen wrench, but due to it becoming rounded, I cut a slot through the middle of it and now I have to use a chisel to undo it. Now we move towards the front of the bike. This is where the majority of the fastenings for the main fairings are. Again, the 5mm Allen wrench is used here. The screen mounting screws are normally undone using a screwdriver, however mine just come straight out as they're not actually attached to anything within the fairing. It's time to remove the mirrors. Fold the rubber cowling up over itself to get it out of the way, then use a standard Allen wrench to undo the bolts. The topmost bolt for the mirror is a bit fiddly to get to, which is why you need to use a standard Allen wrench. The ratchet type will not fit here. Although you can use an Allen wrench for these smaller bolts on the front fairing, I'm using a star drive as it fits better and prevents the bolt from rounding. The bolts at the lower front section of the fairing were originally the same as the smaller ones on the front fairing. However, I replaced these with screw-headed bolts. Now we move on to the final and sneakiest fastener for the fairings. While all the other bolts have been on the outside, there is a final panel screw on the inside of the dashboard towards the top of the screen. You're now ready to take off the main fairing, but first you must loosen the front fairing. This is the section with the small light in it at the front. To take the fairing off, you need to release the 2 mounting points, which are just below the seat and below the halfway point of the tank on the frame. These mounting points are just plastic protrusions in rubber grommets, but you want to pull them straight out towards you to prevent the plastic points from getting damaged. Once you've released the fairing, then you must disconnect the indicator connector. Lift the tab, separate the connectors. You can now put the fairing safe while you work on the bike. To put the fairings back on once you're finished, just follow this process, but in reverse. If you found this video useful, then make sure to like it. On your screen now should be another video that you might be interested in, and don't forget to subscribe so you'll always know when there's new content is uploaded to the Dave Cave.